If you're somebody who struggles with burnout, either now or you have in the past, and you suspect is probably coming around the corner again, then stick around to listen to today's video. I'm going to share a burnout story, my own personal burnout story that was quite severe, and what I did and the changes I made to get through it. So this is a bit of a personal story today, and I just thought it was kind of apropos because I am at the beach. We rented a place here in Florida, so that's a fun little tiki bar behind me for 2 weeks. And this is one of the compensatory methods that I've insisted on having in my life, like time away and just creative break so that I can recharge. But that's something I'll get to at the end of the story. So where does it start? 2017, I was working a full-time job in corporate in Silicon Valley with a big commute and a lot of responsibility. And it wasn't a job that I particularly loved. And I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD at the time. By the way, I have ADHD, which is a big part of the story as well. But you don't have to have ADHD to suffer burnout. I was working very hard, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. And when you have ADHD, when you have any sort of attention challenges, it's really difficult to get your brain to do things that aren't inherently interesting for you. And it takes a lot more cognitive energy. So I think that contributed to the burnout situation for me. Also, I was trying to work on different creative projects and side hustles so that I could eventually get out of corporate. But I had to do something because we had a Silicon Valley mortgage, which is quite the crazy situation. So suffice to say, I felt very trapped and not in control of my life. So these are somewhat inherent symptoms of burnout when you don't have when you feel like you don't have agency and choice over your life, and you don't feel like you're being effective in your work, and your work doesn't have meaning. It can make you feel very disconnected to your work and disconnected to your life, and just feel like you're completely ineffective, which renders you basically in this place of I don't care about anything. I'm numb. And that's where I ended up. And one night I was just sitting on the couch and staring off into nowhere going, I said it out loud. I said, I feel numb. I do not feel myself at all. And there was probably some depression there as well. I probably should have sought therapy, but it never even occurred to me at the time. I just knew something was wrong. And a couple of days later, I was in a grocery store listening to a podcast, as I always do. And it was a Goop podcast, and they were talking about burnout. And the guest they had on was explaining the symptoms of burnout. And she explained me to a T. And I stopped in the middle of Trader Joe's with my cart. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on with me. So that was the catalyst for just going down a rabbit hole of research and trying to understand what burnout was and how to manage it and how to get out of it. And the frustrating thing that I found when I was researching burnout was a lot of the solutions were things that I was already doing in my life. I've always been very committed to a regular fitness routine and meditation and yoga. Those have always been parts of who I am because I didn't have a diagnosis of ADHD or anxiety at the time, but I knew there was something about me where if I didn't do those things, I wasn't functional. So I was already a bit of a self-care warrior. So it was frustrating to me to think, well, I'm doing all these things, but I'm still burned out. And for me, it wasn't the lifestyle practices so much as what was going on in here. I had this underlying belief. I've always had this underlying belief that I've got to do more, be better, keep growing, keep hustling, because where I am right now and who I am right now is not enough. I need to be that person over there, and there's a lot of work that has to happen before I become that person. And every time I grow further and further into that person, the goalpost just keeps moving. I need to be better at something new and work harder at something else. And there's never a point where I can just sort of, I've worked really hard. I'm going to take stock of all the work that I've done and the growth that I've created in my life and just appreciate where I am. Never. I wonder if that's a relatable story for you too. So for me, instead of, trying to eat better or exercise more, actually I kept the food and nutrition and hydration piece. I kept going, but I changed my workout habits. I became a little less aggressive because I knew in my heart what mattered to me was my well being rather than like a particular look that I was trying to achieve. I also started prioritizing connection to my friends and family. I'd been working so hard that I really wasn't making enough of an effort in my relationships. And that was something that was hurting my heart because the people that I love in my life really do fill my cup. The last thing I did was start working on my self image and my self identity. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. But in retrospect, I can articulate the importance of what I did much better. So I'll try and do that now. And this is something I learned throughout my coaching program that I took last year. Instead of trying to constantly be that next person or that better person, I, without knowing it or unknowingly, started to just look at who I was and my own strengths and what mattered to me and lean further into them. And that's exactly what I would tell a client to do now in retrospect, not only having the training that I have, but also having that lived experience. And doing that and taking stock of what really mattered, I really pared back all of the things that I was trying to do. This is a classic thing for people with ADHD, but I think just in general, we want to do so many exciting things and we want to put our energy into so many things, but realistically, there's just no possible way to do that. It's either one thing at a time or a few things moving forward, but having like 10, 15 different aspirations of wanting to be like, a good friend and a good wife and somebody who looks a certain way from a fitness perspective and, creative and a corporate success, all of these things. It just wasn't possible. So I got really real with myself and I put everything that mattered to me on a post-it note that was about this big. And that was my well-being, the people that I love, and my creativity. And from there, I just started saying no to a lot of things and saying yes to things I wouldn't have imagined I'd say yes to, like a minimalist journey, which I've spoken about before. And I'll link a video down below. And this goal of reaching financial independence, not by working harder, but by saying no more and being more conscious around spending and aligning my life to the things that are most important to me. And by doing all of that, at the time, like I said, it didn't feel like a well mapped out plan because rarely does anything in my life feel that way. But in retrospect, it really was. And where I ended up is in a much more intentional space where I was doing work that I loved and I was able to say no to work that I didn't love because I was saying no to spending and basically wasting money on things that weren't important to me so that I could do things that were important to me, like take creative breaks and rent a house by the beach and just be for 2 weeks. This video is probably the most strenuous thing I'll do over the next 2 week period. And I'm doing it just because I want to show up. And I promised my community I would show up every Friday. But taking these creative breaks has become part of that self-care ritual that is just underpins everything I do in life. And if there's one takeaway that I would want you to take from this is to think about where you're pouring energy into things that perhaps don't align to what matters to you or what lights you up. Because when you pour your energy into a number of different endeavors, obviously we know that it doesn't really move the needle in any direction. But when we are able to pare down what's important and get very clear on that and only do and only focus and only invest time, energy, and resources into those things that truly matter to us, it can not only alleviate burnout and make sure it doesn't come back, but it will change your life. And obviously, life is still hard sometimes, but I am able to face it with a sense of peace and self-control, and just a knowing that no matter what, I'll be fine because I have created a life that truly reflects who I am authentically and genuinely. So that's what I got for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It's not scripted or anything like that, but I'm on vacation, so I felt like sharing from my vacation vibe. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.